Steelers Nation, how we doing? Thank you guys so very much for joining us on yet another edition of the Steeler Culture Podcast, where we break down Pittsburgh Steelers football. In Steelers Nation, the free agency period is at a slow period right now in the offseason, so we feel like it is time for us to present to you guys our second Pittsburgh Steelers mock draft, but a little post-free agency edition.
Yes, after free agency, it's past us. We already know what the Steelers brought in. They brought in a lot of safety depth. They brought in defensive line depth. They brought in extra receiver in Pittman. They grabbed cornerback too in Jamel Dean, Rico Dowdle. They're still bringing in some extra depth pieces as we speak. But obviously, we still have 12 picks to discuss. We have a full mock draft to get to, so let's get right into it. And just like our pre-free agency one, this one will include a trade-up because we have 12 picks, and that tells me that we're going to trade up. They don't need all 12 picks, so they can sacrifice a decent amount of them to trade up for a certain player, a certain needy position, such as wide receiver or even guard. And yes, I do think trading up for a guard is worth trading the picks because, one, you have 12 of them. Two, it solidifies your line, and there's a certain guard out there I really want the Steelers to trade up for. We do not have him in this mock. You already know what I'm talking about. It's Vega from Penn State. He is not in this mock, so if you're disappointed, I apologize.
But that doesn't mean that he will not be included in a possible future mock of ours.
Yeah, I'm not trying to spoil our next one, but you guys
okay.
You guys already know.
All right.
But
I'm liking it already.
But we do have a trade up. It's a lot similar to our pre-free agency one. The Steelers trade up with the Rams to get in front of the Ravens. You guys got cold feet, but we still trade in front of y'all. We trade with the Rams because they just love getting rid of their first rounders, and they need some extra capital. We trade the 21st overall pick, our first rounder, the 85th overall pick, a third rounder, one of our 3 third rounders, and the 135th pick, one of our 4th rounders. In fact, our 4th round comp pick. So we trade first round pick, one of our 3rds and one of our 4ths to the Rams to jump up for the Ravens for the 13th overall pick. And with the 13th overall pick, the guy I mostly want, if you guys have been following, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Mekhi Lemon, wide receiver out of USC. Yes, we have DK. Yes, we traded for Michael Pittman, traded him pretty much a bag of chips for him. We still need an eventual wide receiver one. As much as I like what DK and Pittman bring to the table as vertical threats and big body receivers for whoever the quarterback's going to be, they're not number ones. They're going to complement each other finally, and they're going to take pressure off each other. But we still need a certified number one. We need someone to work in the slot and eventually build their way up to be that number one role, a la JSN, Jackson Smith and Jingba, of the Seahawks. Look at what the Seahawks did. It's a perfect recipe of how they got JSN have such an amazing season and where he's going to probably get paid the highest paid wide receiver contract in NFL history. They had DK. They had Lockett. Then they drafted JSN in the first round. DK got traded to us. Lockett is wherever now. JSN just had one of the best seasons by an entire Seahawks receiver of all time. We need to do the same with a guy like Mekhi Lemon. Work him in the slot, and then he's eventually going to bounce outside. He is the route technician we need. That's what we need at the wide receiver position. When you look at the wide receiver position, we got the big bodies. We have the contested catch ability that Pittman brings. We have the speed of DK. We got some physicality, but we don't have the separation value, and we don't have the route running technician at the wide receiver position. You fix that immediately with Mekhi Lemon.
And not just route running technician, but playmaker on the offense, specifically at wide receiver. Not to say that DK and Pittman aren't playmakers. They can make some plays in their own right. But when it comes to a young player, a consistent player at that can be that playmaker specifically in the slot to start off in, that could be Mekhi Lemon. He did all sorts of that at USC. And he has everything that you want in a wide receiver. He brings everything to the table. Speed, route running, consistent hands, just athleticism, ability to break tackles, yak ability, just outstanding ability at the wide receiver position.
Yeah, everyone's comparing him to Amon St. Brown, a fellow Trojan.
That's my comp to him.
Everyone's comparing him to JSN. I see a lot of Puka Nacua. He's smaller than Puka. He's 5'11 and 192, but he plays like Puka size, who's like 6'2", 212. The guy's crazy, bro. He had a 2.2 drop rate the last 2 seasons while creating 881 yak yards and 14 missed tackles along in those 2 seasons. The guy is my number 1 receiver in the draft. It would be Tyson, but Tyson has those injury concerns, serious injury concerns, to the point it's going to take him out of the pro day. which is very concerning.
And that's awful for him.
That's why Mekhi is my number one. He has everything you need. I honestly think Mekhi would be a home run pick. That is one guy you trade up for. If you want to trade up for a skill position or a skill player, Mekhi Lemon is that guy. There are question marks regarding, is he going to even be there at 13? Because the Dolphins just traded Waddle to the Broncos. So Lemon might not even be on the board. I'm not going to lie to you. But everyone's draft boards are different.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
There's always a chance.
Of course
There's a chance Vega falls to 21. There's a chance Lemon falls to 21.
You never know.
There's a chance the Steelers trade up twice in this draft. I'm just saying.
Yeah, you never know.
But the Steelers take Mekhi Lemon by trading up for him. It's the second time we've done this. You can tell how much we really like a guy like Mekhi Lemon.
Well, dude, he's legit. I mean, he's a game, he's a factor when it comes to game days. He's that type of player, and he just brings the sort of confidence that you need at the wide receiver position and for the offense, despite who the quarterback may be, because we're still waiting on A-Rod.
But that's why you trade up for Lemon, because you're eventually setting up for that guy.
And then you're literally fulfilling wide receiver because you have DK, you traded for Pittman, but then you're even fulfilling it even more in the slot with Mekhi Lemon for him to eventually work outside.
Well, you're fixing it long term because Lemon doesn't have to be the one immediately. He's working his way up the ladder. And then eventually when he gets that number one role, whether it's for one reason or another, he's ready for that spot. He's ready day one for any team, to be real with you. But you put him in the slot to start off with the Steelers. I really like a guy like Mekhi Lemon, man. He is ultimately the number one guy I want in this draft, second being Vega. But in this one, we're going to trade up once again from Mekhi Lemon. This time with the Rams. Again, we trade a first rounder, one of our thirds, the 85th pick, and the 135th pick, the fourth round comp, to get a guy like Mekhi Lemon. The next position we need to worry about is guard.
We don't have one.
No, and in fact, if the Steelers are going to take a guard, it won't be any later than probably the third round pick they got from Dallas, which is the 76th overall pick. We don't wait that long here. We went up, traded up for our wide receiver. Now we need a guard. Day two is a prime spot for guards, for interior offensive linemen in general. I mean, there's a plethora of names out there. There's Jennings Dunker, who's going to eventually have to switch to left guard, right? Or any guard position in the NFL. You got Chase Basantis. You got Kalen Rutledge. You have Pregnon, right? Emmanuel Pregnon. You got all these guys that are primed for day two. If some of them even fall into day two, who knows? With the 53rd overall pick, we go guard, and the Pittsburgh Steelers select Chase Basantis, guard out of Texas A&M. Quick backstory. He originally started as a right tackle in 2023 as a true freshman due to injuries, which clearly didn't pan out for him, mostly because of it's not his natural position, and his arm length is very short. So tackle didn't work out for him. Thus, he moved to left guard in 2024, where he's been starting the last 2 years. In fact, the last 2 years, he started 23 games collectively at left guard, holding that position down, including playing all 13 games just last season. One thing I like about Basantis is he moves well in space. He's a strong pull guard. He creates lanes in the run game, and he has improved his pass protection every single year, which is things you want to see about a guy like Chase Basantis. I like a lot of his tape. He brings physicality. He can get to that second level. He's good with his hands. He's very violent at the first punch, with the first contact. He's a strong anchor at left guard, and he's a natural guard. He's a natural left guard at that. So if you have worries of switching someone to the other side or switching someone from one position to the guard position, no worry with Basantis because he's already been there the last 2 years. He's a natural guard to fill in. And only at 21 years old, there's a ton of room to grow for this guy.
Oh, plenty. I mean, you just get the sense that he just gets more comfortable year after year, honestly, at the left guard position. He's only going to get better. He's only going to continue to grow. Like I said, 21 years old. A lot of upside with Basantis.
No, yeah, I mean, there are some concerns with penalties and things like that, or maybe his recovery could be a little better, right? But
I mean, he's far from a finished product. Again, like he's only played 2 years at the left guard position, but that's where he's most comfortable. He's only going to continue to get comfortable, continue to get better at that.
And with right coaching, I think those are very, very fixable issues. He solidifies left guard for you, and he fills in right there day one as your starting left guard. And that entire line, which you already know is going to be now, that entire line is nothing but rookie contracts, which is just insane. It's a completely young line for whoever the quarterback's going to be this year and then onward, which is exactly what you want. You want a young, fresh, ready-to-go foundation, right, for the guy that's going to take the key. So,
And that's what Domar Khan has been working with. That's what he's working on. And not only is the line going to stay young, but you have a lot of thunderous players among that line right there.
and at the NFL Combine, they, as far as I know, they only met with 2 guards, which was Emmanuel Pregnon out of Oregon, and Chase Bissonis was indeed one of them. Now, I also mentioned they did bring in Kalen Rutledge for a top 30 visit, so obviously they're looking at all options on the table. I love a guy like Rutledge. Frankly, if it comes down to a situation where Pregnon's gone or Bissonis is gone by 53, if they have to take a guy like Rutledge at 53, I like that pick too. But this is the thing with mock drafts. You just don't know where players are going to completely fall. The draft boards are always different, and there's always linemen that fall for some reason or another. That could be Bissonis. That's why we take him comfortably here and fix the left guard spot by taking Chase Bissonis out of Texas A&M at 53 in the second round.
And it could be a deja vu situation, like when it came to center, when the Steelers didn't sign the center in free agency of 2024, and then they took Zach Frazier in the second round, and we know how Frazier's been the past 2 years. Hell of a center. This could very well be the same exact situation when it comes to offensive guard with Chase Bissonis.
Right. It'll be interesting. But you already know, like, the first 2 picks had to be wide receiver and guard, whether it's one way or the other, vice versa. But those are the 2 positions the Steelers have to address immediately, which is still wide receiver and then obviously right guard or left guard, because if you want to be technical, guard might be our biggest need because we don't have a starter. Like, we have our starting receivers. So if they wanted to wait on a receiver, they could. Here we traded for one, and then we still get a guard in the second round, fulfilling 2 of the biggest needs still on this football team. Now, the 76th overall pick that we got from the George Pickens trade from the Dallas Cowboys. We're going to stick with the trenches here because that's Omar Khan and Andy Waddle's bread and butter. That's all they've prioritized. They brought in so many names, so many guys on their rookie deals, guys that are going to be getting eventual extensions, right? They're going to continue to prioritize the trenches here early into the draft. With the 76th overall pick, they go defensive line here, and they go Dominic Orange, defensive tackle out of Iowa State. 6'2", 322, also known as Big Citrus. This guy is nothing more than just your new big-ass nose tackle. You want the guy to fill the gaps. You want someone to close the lanes. You want someone to stop the run. You want someone to play on obvious and early rundowns. This is the guy you bring in Dominic Orange. You bring him in. You have him stop the run. He takes up double teams and allows linebackers and safeties to make plays at the line of scrimmage, behind the line of scrimmage. Orange can take up just a lot of attention, not only because of his size, but what he does at the line. He's very fast off the line. He's physical. He knows how to get to the ball carrier. It also helps that this guy is just a mammoth because he has 33 1/8 inch arms, along with 10 1/4 inch hands. So his reach is easy enough for him to grip onto the ball carrier or whoever to slow down their momentum and allow the play to come to an end, or just slow down the play in general. The guy is nothing more than just your nose tackle. He doesn't have much pass rush upside. Maybe that can grow with the new defensive line coach. He's still young of a player too, so he could learn a little bit more of his pass rush abilities, but he's not known for that. He's not going to be brought in for that because we already have our pass rushers. We have Harmon. We have Hayward. We have Benton. We already have our pass rush defensive lineman. You need someone to stop the run. Dominic Orange brings that immediately.
Yeah, his pass rush production, he only got 1 sack in 4 years at Iowa State. But again, that wouldn't be his sole purpose because everybody else that the Steelers have along the defensive line, or even the front seven at that would not have to be his purpose. His purpose, just because of his big size and his lengthy, long arms, is to stop the run and play the nose tackle because that's his natural position. He is a pure nose tackle. He can take on those double teams. He can take on blockers because of his long, lengthy arms, take down the ball carrier. He can even do that when blockers are still attached to him.
Yeah, he just takes up so much attention, not just because of how he plays, but, I mean, the size of a player that he is, right?
And it's just added depth and youth at an already stacked defensive line group.
And you got to stay young. You got to keep adding depth. I know we already have Hayward. We have Harmon. We have Benton. We have Y.A. Black. They just signed Sebastian Joseph Day. They re-signed Ezekiel Tamu. So you're looking at it. That's like 5 or 6 guys locked for the roster. So you're probably thinking maybe defensive line isn't that much of a priority. But I'm also thinking we still need a nose tackle. Like, yeah, Joseph Day would be that guy because that's where he started off, I believe, with the Rams when he started his career. So he'd fill in while also playing that 3 tech in rotation with Harmon and Hayward. but you still need that eventual nose. That is orange. Like, how many years have we been saying, man, we need a true defensive tackle. We need a true zero tech. We haven't had that in a long time.
No,
They tried with Ben, and clearly that's out of position. Y.A. Black, I don't think he's ready for it. He's got the measurables for it, but the tape last year wasn't impressive enough for him to be relied on as a zero tech. Maybe he can take a second-year jump. He was a fifth-round pick, so maybe expectations should be a little bit lower, but that's why you go out and grab a guy like Orange with the pick you got from Dallas. You continue to build the trenches. You keep it young. You add more to the defensive line, and frankly, their mentality and their priority is stopping the run. They've still had struggles of doing that. That wouldn't be much of an issue if you go out and grab a guy like Orange.
No, and that mentality of stopping the run, it doesn't seem to be fading away now that Mike McCarthy is a head coach, because he's all about traditions, and he's always, liked the way of the Steelers defense has been since basically the 70s, let's be honest here. So I see him still running with that and getting a true nose tackle here, even in the third round with your first third-round selection to get a guy like Orange. I mean, it helps in stopping the run big time. You need run stoppers. You need guys that can close the gap. Orange is one of those guys that can do that.
And frankly, you can never have too much great depth at the defensive line. We know. God forbid, knock on wood, we suffer any injuries. Depth hasn't been the greatest to us. Depth wouldn't be an issue this year if you go out and grab a guy like Orange early on to the draft. So we prioritized the trenches by getting our new left guard and then eventually our long-term nose tackle in Dominic Orange. We still have one more third-round pick. We had 3 coming into this mock. We traded one to trade up for a receiver. We still have an extra one, which is the comp pick we got from Dan Moore.
Thanks, Dan Moore.
The 99th overall pick at the bottom of the third round. The bottom of day 2. Another position they could prioritize, and they should, is linebacker. Because they brought in corner, they brought in safety, so they could hold back on those a little bit if they really wanted to. Or it depends how the board falls. But they need another linebacker. I know they brought back Cole Holcomb. Malik Harrison is still on the team for some reason. But they still need somebody to work in rotations. Maybe start on special teams if they want to. But they still need a little bit of a rotation. They still need a little bit of that insurance. And frankly, some coverage upside. So with the 99th overall pick, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Kyle Lewis, linebacker out of Pittsburgh. Yes, he's incredibly undersized. We know this. He's 6 foot, 220.
Yep, very undersized for his position. But listen, when it comes to Kyle Lewis, he is probably one of the more talented defenders in this draft class, and arguably at his position, the best coverage linebacker coming into this class.
Oh, undoubtedly. I mean, there are some good coverage linebackers. Anthony Hill, I really like. I don't think he'll fall this far. Jay Gaulday, I don't think he'll fall this far. I like Josiah Trotter, but he's more of a run guy, more like a Timmons-like player.
Right.
Not much coverage upside. We're looking for that coverage kind of linebacker. Perhaps because of his size, he would fall. But I think that would be a hell of a value pick right there at 99 and Kyle Lewis. You bring him in, you have him come in on easy passing downs. He can stop the run. He brings a lot to the table at the linebacker position. He brings athleticism. He brings speed, versatility, and eye for the football. Obviously, coverage upside. He can work in blitzes if he has to. He can work great in the box. There's a lot of people saying he might eventually have to move to safety, which wouldn't be a bad thing for him because that's a big safety.
Yes, it is.
220 for eventual safety? Are you kidding me? So if you want to eventually move him to safety, by all means, but you could start him out as linebacker. His size might be a little concerning, but he would start off great as a power nickel. You put him in the nickel and nickel packages or in dime packages or whatever, he has the coverage upside to match with slot receivers. He has the coverage upside to match with tight ends, athletic tight ends. He has the athletic background to match with anybody in coverage. That's why you go out and grab a guy like Kyle Lewis. And I think he has 3 down potential. He wouldn't be the starter immediately.
And he doesn't have to be. That's the thing. He can start off as that nickel linebacker in sub packages and whatnot. That's a good way to get his feet wet, and special teams, of course.
Right.
But eventually, through development, through working with Patrick Graham, who I'm sure would love to have a guy of Lewis's athleticism and talent and versatility at that, even if he were to move to safety, it just goes to show the versatility that Kyle Lewis brings to the table. You can't go wrong with wherever he's on the football field. You put him anywhere for him to cover whoever you need him to, this guy's capable of doing it.
I agree.
And he stood out a lot in Pittsburgh. He was arguably the Panthers' best defender overall.
I would agree.
And just his production on the field for the Panthers is out of this world. You can't overlook it. I mean, it's just incredible.
Yeah, he started in Pitt in 2022, obviously redshirt and saw limited time in 2023. 2024 is where he really burst onto the scene, is where he really started to get the starting playing time. And then, he really burst onto the scene. I think he started all 13 games in 2024. He had over 100 tackles, 15 and a half tackles for loss. So you see what he can do in the run game. I mean, this guy's all over the field.
Or even as a blitzer, he had 7 sacks that year and 4 interceptions, including one versus Syracuse, who I believe was Kyle McCord was the quarterback, where he returned it 59 yards for a touchdown.
Yeah, Kyle McCord, Ohio State legend. But this guy's a playmaker.
This guy's an athlete. This guy can play some good football.
I think he followed up in 2025 with an additional 3 sacks and 2 picks and 85 tackles. The guy's everywhere. I think this would be a great value pick in 99.
And the Steelers brought him in for a top 30 visit.
As a local visit.
Actually,
he doesn't count as a top 30 visit.
But they still looked at him.
Local visit, so yes. Obviously, the kid next door, why not? They already know what he's capable of. He has the Heinz Field,
experience.
Exactly. I mean, it just makes sense for the Steelers. It really does. And a guy like Patrick Graham, I think he would find a good way to use Kyle Lewis's traits very well for this defense. And just add more to linebacker room. Hey, might eventually be the Patrick Queen replacement, because we got to think Patrick Queen's in the last year of his contract. We don't know if he's going to extend it or not. You got to have that insurance plan. I like Kyle Lewis a lot. One of my guys for this draft class for sure.
For sure.
Day 2 is a good spot for linebacker. I will say that. A sweet spot for linebacker. Some might fall off pretty early, but if they want to wait, I think Kyle Lewis would be a good pick at the bottom of the third round. Bottom of the third round here. Now we move on to the 4th round, day 3. We're going to start with the 121st pick, which is the lone 4th round pick we have, because remember, we traded the 135th to the Rams. So with the 121st pick, we're going to copy one of our picks from the last mock, much like Lemon. The Pittsburgh Steelers select Bud Clark, defensive back out of TCU. Bud Clark, more should I say safety, out of TCU. 6'1", 188. So he's a bit of a taller safety, which, if you've been looking at the Steelers' track record for defensive backs, they like their taller guys. Look at JPJ, look at Corey Trice, look at Jamel Dean. They like their taller guys. He's a little skinny for safety, but he played a lot of slot time too, so you kind of get an idea of where he would get his feet wet. You start him in the slot in nickel or dime packages. I think he'd be a perfect dime package guy. You work him in the dime, you pair him against slot receivers or tight ends or even running backs in the flat right. The guy's capable of working in the ground game too, as his tackling improved every year. He's a very good coverage guy, and he's a hell of a ball hawk. 15 interceptions coming from his past 4 seasons.
Incredible. Just goes to show the type of player that he is and was for TCU and can be in the NFL. Just a ball hawk. He knows how to create turnovers, and just his versatility at that. He can play deep safety. He can play in the box, play in the slot. I mean, he's another Swiss Army knife type of weapon that I'm sure Patrick Graham would love to have a part of his defense and just find a way to utilize him.
But I think he has enough speed and athleticism that he could work as a deep safety. He's got really good range. Like, he's got enough coverage upside to work man-to-man, but you put him deep safety, I think that's where his ceiling could be at the next level.
And it could definitely work.
Like, yeah, we got Jaquan Brisker. They signed Darnell Savage, but you still need extra safety depth. Frankly, I think drafting a safety is still the way to go, because you got Brisker for at least a year. We'll see how that goes. But Darnell Savage, I view him more as a camp body. Like, we'll see what he's capable of, see if he can make the roster. Bud Clark, he's a young guy. You bring him in, athletic background. Let's see what he can do as a depth piece. Maybe work his way up the roster. He'll obviously start on special teams, which we need more of that. We need some speed there. We need some athleticism. That'll be a good way to work on his tackling and everything.
Of course.
Get his feet wet, get up to the NFL speed. I like Bud Clark a lot in the 4th round because I think he's got a lot of potential. I think that would be an absolute steal for a guy like Bud Clark and what he brings to the table in the 4th round, and still address the defensive back position.
Yeah, and another thing about Clark that I always like to point out was he was a 2-time captain for TCU. So it goes to show his leadership capabilities and his communication to the defense, specifically the secondary. So that's something, even with a depth player to initially start off at, that's something that you need and that you want in a secondary, because we've always had problems in recent years when it comes to the secondary always having miscommunication. And it's always been a headache. It's always been frustrating just to watch as a Steelers fan. So just to get a guy that has that leadership capability and that communication to the defense, that's something that you need. That's something that you want on your defense.
Right. And obviously the Steelers are showing a lot of interest in him because they talked with him not only at the Senior Bowl, but obviously at the Combine. So clearly there's interest there. And I'd be very shocked if he's not a top 30 visit. Bud Clark to the Steelers kind of feels like one of those most likely in the category. So I like Bud Clark a lot. Like what he brings to the table. So that's why we go him again here in this mock draft. We go to the 5th round, the 161st pick. We still got to double dip at receiver here. So, spoiler alert, we go receiver in the 5th round. Another reason we double dip at receiver is because we need extra depth and we need a return specialist.
We don't have one currently on the roster.
Unless you can tell me who's going to be our kick and punt returner, let us know in the comments. Don't say Jalen Warren. Don't do that. They did that last year and it pissed me off. Don't do that.
No.
It's not Caleb Johnson either. Don't do that. So who's our kick returner? Who's our punt returner?
It's not Roman Wilson.
No. You know who it could be? Kevin Coleman, wide receiver out of Missouri. 5'10", 179. So he's kind of like an inch taller Calvin. But I honestly thought he was very underutilized last year in Missouri. I thought there was a lot more that they could have used, that the coaching could have used to really make out of his talents and use him to the best of his traits. 22 years old. We double dip a wide receiver here, and frankly, Coleman's one of the more under-the-radar wide receivers in this draft class. Yes, he would only be a slot-only receiver, but he's he's a gritty slot-only receiver.
Yes, 5'10", 179 pounds. So a bit of a small frame for his position. Again, only a slot receiver at that, but he's an extremely tough player. He knows how to take some hits, even when it comes to catching the football, and that's another good thing about Coleman's game. Rarely drops the football. Thing about him is he's had quite a journey when it comes to college.
I was about to say, yeah, he's been to 4 different schools in 4 years.
Yes.
So, yeah, he's kind of had himself a very interesting collegiate career. He started at Jackson State in 2022 before he transferred to Louisville in 2023, where he was paired with Chris Bell, who's coming to the draft this year. We'll see where he goes because of his injury. Mm-hmm. And Jamari Thrash
yeah, let's be nice
of the
here.
Browns.
Let's be nice here.
But, he only posted, 26 catches, 2 touchdowns, maybe 400 yards during that tenure. Then he transferred to Mississippi State in 2024. And then he finally broke out. 74 catches, 6 touchdowns, almost 1,000 yards. Coleman would transfer, obviously, one last time to Missouri, where he played in front of a home crowd. It's where he's from.
Yeah, he grew up there, yeah.
So it made sense for him. He posted 66 catches, only 1 touchdown, but 732 yards. But inconsistent quarterback play. Again, I don't think the coaching used him properly. I think there's a lot more that they could have used him and that he could have exploited a lot of his talents. But as a punt returner, he returned a punt for 67 yards, 4 touchdowns. So he brings that special teams value. He would be your immediate punt return guy. And I think he would be very good depth at the wide receiver position. You can mix him in the slot and rotations if you really wanted to. And he's got speed. He's twitchy. He can work on his route running a little bit, but he's a tough receiver. He honestly has the ceiling of like a Khalil Shakir. Khalil Shakir is not the biggest receiver in the world.
No.
But he is probably the most dependable receiver Josh Allen has had in such a long time.
Exactly.
At least since Diggs was there.
And Shakir, he had that start. I believe he started off as a return specialist, special teams guy, but, eventually worked into the starting role. And the thing about Shakir is he is reliable for the Bills, for Josh Allen. Coleman could very well have that same journey and be exactly like Shakir, just be that reliable weapon. Again, he hardly drops the football. He's that extra hand at wide receiver, but again, he just developed with his route running, just continuing to get better. He's only 22 years old, so he's still very, very young.
Yeah, and it just adds more to the wide receiver room. Because look at the wide receiver room right now. Pittman, DK, in this mock specifically, Lemon, Coleman, Roman, Skoranek. Those are your receivers. I'm happy with that room.
Yeah, and honestly, when it comes to Coleman, he could be a guy that can compete for that number 4 spot with Roman Wilson.
Yeah.
Which wouldn't be a bad thing for Roman because Roman needs some competition if he wants to prove himself. It brings some good competition. Iron sharpens iron. And Coleman, specifically, he can start off as a punt returner, and that's something that the Steelers still need to get.
Agreed. So this is kind of like a 2-in-1 here. You get depth. You get someone that can work their way up the roster, a reliable receiver, a tough receiver for his size, but immediately would have special teams value, and this is your day 1 punt returner, potentially kick returner if you want to have him have value there. I like a lot of Kevin Coleman's game. I see him on the film, and I see how quick he is, and he's twitchy, and he's just very, very grim as a receiver, right? I like a lot of what he showcases. So that's why we go Kevin Coleman here in the 5th round, the double dip at wide receiver. 6th round, we have 1 6th-round pick, the 216th pick, which is a comp pick, obviously. We traded 214 to the Colts for Michael Pittman, so we only have 216. And we're going to double dip in the secondary here. So we're going to go another defensive back because why not? You can never have too many defensive backs. And frankly, I think we could use extra depth. We could use some extra competition for a guy like Corey Trice or Dante Kent, or we could use some extra slot versatility, some extra slot options, right? Depending on what they want to do with Ramsey. So in the 6th round here, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Jadon Kennedy, defensive back out of Oregon, 5'10", 181, slot-only receiver. He could work outside in a pinch, but this is primarily only a slot corner for depth with potentially some serious starter upside. He is very much under the radar. He is very underrated. He's not getting talked about enough. And frankly, he is one of the better covered slot guys in this entire draft class. And I mean that. He had a passer rating allowed of only 39.4 last year.
That's incredible.
And allowed only 17 catches for 104 yards.
That's it.
Last season in Oregon.
His lone season at Oregon at that too.
Yeah, because this guy has a collegiate background himself where he had to transfer from time to time, where he finally found a spot, a good spot in Oregon where he could finally burst onto the scene and show what he's capable of. And frankly, his name's starting to get circulated a little bit because of what he can bring to the table. And he's a guy that, yeah, he's smaller, but he's got the speed to match any slot receiver. He's a physical guy that can work in the ground game. He's a fearless tackler, great coverage upside. I like a lot of what he brings to the table. He's very underrated and someone you can get day 3, work up the roster, potentially be a decent little steal if you really wanted to.
Yeah, it really could. And when it comes to Kennedy, he had some impressive games in back-to-back weeks versus the likes of USC against Mekhi Lemon. He had some good reps against Mekhi Lemon. And versus Washington, where he got interceptions in those games.
Yeah, very impressive against top competition. So you know he can work with NFL-level competition, right? Jadon Kennedy is very underrated. Like, if you don't know about this guy, I insist that you search up and read more into him. He's very underrated. I can promise you, you're going to like a lot of what he offers, like very, very quickly. Like, he's someone that you're going to pretty much keep an eye on up until draft time. I promise you, I like a lot of what he does. I think this is a very underrated corner that someone is going to snag day 3 and get a very, very good pick. Jadon Kennedy for slot depth, work his way up the roster, starting special teams. I really like what he brings to the table. Physicality, coverage upside, speed, works in the run defense, right? I mean, he brings everything you want as a slot corner. He started his career in Tulane in 2021, where I think he actually hauled a interception on his first college snap.
Yes, he did.
Against Oklahoma. So you already know, like, right then and there, the guy's bound to make plays. He would transfer over to Ole Miss in 2023, but only played 2 games due to a lower body injury, unfortunately. He bounced back in 2024, starting 11 to 12 games, totaling 38 tackles and 12 passes defended. 12. Then he finally transferred to Oregon, his lone season there. He pretty much played that star role where he played everywhere on the secondary. He played safety, he played in the box, he played outside, he played slot. This guy is versatile. The guy can play anywhere on the field and make plays. And like we said, what his stats we mentioned earlier, yeah, I think Kennedy's really, really underrated, flying under the radar.
Yeah, it's stats that you can't overlook. And when you look at the film, he backs it up on the field for sure. Sticky, physical. He's twitchy when the ball comes, when the ball's thrown towards him, and he's got good burst when it comes to pursuing the football and the ball carrier at that.
Yeah.
The guy's very, very good. Very underrated.
Now let's move on to the 7th round. We got 3 of these. So we're going to start with the first one, the 224th pick. We're going to go quarterback because we didn't go quarterback yet. And if they're going to go quarterback, it's going to be as early as the start of day 3.
At least I hope so.
I wouldn't take one day 2.
No.
And I definitely didn't take one round 1. It's not the class to do it.
No.
It's kind of hard to pinpoint where or when the Steelers are going to go quarterback, so we're going to go safe here and go towards the end of the draft. That's not going to be the case with all of our mocks, but for now, we're going to go here in the 7th round, at least to get it out the way. We're going to go quarterback, but this is one of those guys that's also going under the radar that we kind of like. One of the very few I wouldn't mind the Steelers selecting. With the 224th pick, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Luke Altmaier, quarterback out of Illinois, 6'2", 210, 23 years old. This guy is nothing more than a camp body, a third quarterback option, someone you could stash on the practice squad, or if he shows enough, he could make the roster as a 3 depending on the quarterback room.
Yeah, it really depends. I mean, he's nothing more than a backup quarterback option, but one that possesses traits that the Steelers do like in a quarterback. He's a tough player who can take a hit, and he has the ability to scramble and run with the football, so he's a scrambler, something that Mike McCarthy has preached about in his opening press conference about what he wants in a quarterback. Altmaier does bring that, and he's got some solid accuracy and has actually had some clutch moments. He has a clutch gene in him, as he had 5 career game-winning drives during his time at Illinois.
Yeah. So he's got a little ice in his veins.
A little bit.
Now, yeah, his arm talent isn't the greatest. It's probably average, could be better. But, I mean, he would serve as a solid backup. And frankly, I feel like wherever this guy went, they found success, which goes to show about his leadership and what he brings to the table and how he elevates his players, he elevates his receivers, he elevates the team. He elevates everyone around them, which are just factors that you can't always teach at the quarterback position. So that's a good thing about Luke Altmaier. He's won wherever he's went. He's found success. He's put up stats, and he has elevated the talent around him, which are qualities that you want at the quarterback position. He checks that already.
Exactly. You know, he started off at Ole Miss before he transferred to Illinois in 2023. Then he finally got a real starting opportunity in 2024 where he helped lead Illinois to win the Citrus Bowl. And then in 2025, he helped lead them to the Music City Championship Bowl.
So back-to-back victories in the bowl games.
Yes.
How about that? 3 years as an Illinois starting quarterback, 7,607 passing yards, 57 tutties to 21 INTs, along with rushing for 741 rushing yards and 12 touchdowns. So, yeah, he's got a bit of elusiveness to him. He's got a little bit of a running gene. He's got a little bit of scrambling ability, which is why I like what he brings to the table. His arm talent isn't the greatest, but look at what he did at Illinois. Look at how he elevated the players, and the stats show up for it as well. And on tape, yeah, he can get a little rambled in the pocket, which is where he's got to stand strong and hit his receivers. But I think his accuracy is solid enough, and he throws with anticipation. He doesn't really rely on his first read a lot, which are good things about a backup quarterback. He could work his way up. He's a guy you could bring in, and eventually let's see what he can do in camp. He would serve as a camp body, essentially, but let's give him the shot. Let's give him some reps. Let's see what he can do with the talent around him, and let's see what the guy's made of. He's one of the few guys in this draft class at the quarterback position I wouldn't mind the Steelers taking.
For sure. And when it comes to him going up against the pressure, like, again, 5 career game-winning drives during his time at Illinois, so he doesn't feel the pressure. He seems like a calm, composed type of quarterback. Even for a backup quarterback option, that's something that you kind of want and kind of want to look for at that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's why we go Luke Altmaier here. We go a different quarterback option in this mock draft. 230, the 230th pick we got via Indianapolis for the Michael Pittman trade. So with the Colts, 230th overall pick. This is going to be an interesting one. The Pittsburgh Steelers select Max Bredesen, fullback out of Michigan. Originally a tight end, then shifted to fullback. This is essentially your Connor Hayward replacement. Now, for those asking, does Mike McCarthy even use a fullback? Yes. Now,
yes.
Maybe not as recent as, like, let's say the Packers with John Kuhn, Steelers legend, by the way, or a Hunter Lupke. Am I saying his name right?
Hunter L. Let's just call him that.
Lupke?
Let's just move on.
Anyway, yes, he used them wherever he's went. So he likes to use the fullback tight end hybrid. He likes to use them as the blocker and run up the middle. He likes to run I for him. He's all about the ground and pound. Run the football as West Coast offense. He likes the utilization of a fullback. We don't have that on the roster right now. We lost Connor Hayward to the Raiders, and I think they're going to try to add one via the draft. They got all these 7th-round picks. What's a 7th-round pick to a fullback tight end hybrid going to do? There's a Riley Nowakowski we like out of Indiana. We took him in our last mock draft. This time we're going to go to the Wolverines and take Max Bredesen, the brother of Ben Bredesen, who obviously was a former Michigan Wolverine himself, former Raven, now I think a Buck.
Yeah, he is the current Buccaneers guard, and during his time in Michigan, he was a 2-time team captain, and that's what Max Bredesen also did, just like his brother Ben. And the thing about Max's game is his ability to block his ass off. There's no doubt about it, hence why we label him as a fullback, because his receiving upside is not exactly there. I mean, he's hardly caught a football during his time in Michigan. He's caught 12 catches for only 132 yards in 5 years.
Yeah.
So that's not exactly his go-to, but when you have pass catchers like DK, Pittman, Washington, Muth, right? That's not exactly what you're asking Bredesen to do. All you're asking him to do is to block, and that is something that he is damn good at doing.
That's a big-ass fullback, too. 6'2", 252. Max Bredesen, he is an intense blocker. You want someone to lead as the block running up the middle, or you want to run some wide zone carries on the outside with Rico Dowdle and Jalen Warren's explosiveness and their speed. Yeah, Bredesen as that lead guy, wherever he goes, beware. You could work him as an H-back. You could put him along the line beside a tight end or beside one of the tackles. He can work as a block there, as a quick chipper or whatever. I mean, this guy can be lined up anywhere, but primarily at fullback. You bring him in, and pretty much he is your next lead guy. He's essentially your Connor Herod replacement.
Yeah, his run blocking is just where he's most vicious, by the way. He's always looking for a way to finish the blocks with authority. Like, he's very tenacious. And again, Mike McCarthy's history of trying to get a fullback involved back from his Packer days and his Dallas days, I can see him implementing that with the Steelers, to which is something that I don't mind them doing, because they could for sure need it, and it could definitely benefit in the run game with the backs like Warren and Dowdle that we have.
I'll even add this one in. If you want to run some 22 personnel, some pony formations, right? This guy can be brought in as pass protection.
Yeah.
So if you want to, say the third down option is Jalen Warren typically, right? Because his pass protection is receiving upside. You want to use him as an next receiver, by all means. You want to run 22 personnel, by all means. You put Bredesen, you put Warren in the backfield. Bredesen's your pass protecting guy. You got Warren running a wheel, running a Texas route, running a flat or whatever, right? You got that pass protection while still having a reliable receiver and Warren on third downs. I think that just adds extra options for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I like a guy like Max Bredesen primarily as a blocker. You have a 7th-round pick. Was a 7th-round pick hurt for an eventual blocker, for someone that could work in the middle, of the backfield? So we go out and grab a guy like him to fulfill pretty much that Connor Hayward spot that is now vacant. So Max Bredesen out of Michigan would be your new fullback, essentially. Now we got one more pick in this mock draft. We're going to go essentially running back again. But this would be actually running back. This is more of competition for Caleb Johnson. This is extra room. This is an extra body in the running back room for camp. Frankly, this could be someone that could actually find his way onto the roster, depending on how a guy like Caleb Johnson does or how he does in camp, right? In the 7th round, at the end of this mock, the 237th pick, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Kalen Black, running back out of Indiana. Easily, not to take anything away from the other running back, Roman, right? But easily, Black was their most productive running back. He was the most explosive. He got the most tutties, and he just has a lot more upside. Now, in Indiana, he obviously followed Curt Cignetti from James Madison. So clearly, I mean, a lot of players did that. I mean, a lot of players did that for Curt Cignetti. They moved on from James Madison. A bunch moved over to Indiana, obviously found greater success, right? Built their careers. Most of those guys are going to be drafted pretty high, and obviously they won a championship. So it all worked out for everybody. But no, I mean, he saw more receiving upside in James Madison than he did in Indiana. In Indiana, he didn't see a lot of receiving upside. He didn't. But that's because look at all the pass targets they had.
Exactly.
They had Charlie Becker. They had Elijah Surratt. They had Omar Cooper. They had so many receivers. They even used Riley Nowakowski a few times, right, which actually succeeded for him. They had so many receivers that Black didn't have to worry about. He was that change of pace. He was that guy that took up the carries, and he burst on with some big runs because of the front line, because of Nowakowski getting some blocks, or just because of his explosiveness and his way to break off tackles and get yards after contact, right? That's what Black brings to the table, is when I see him on the field, when I see his game, I see him get the ball. He's kind of decisive and patient with his vision. And then the second he finds a lane, he can get skinny too. So if the lane isn't very open, he's a guy that can get skinny at 5'9", 208. And he can zoom through the fucking lane. Like, this guy is a goddamn energy boost. He puts the turbo jets on. This guy's explosive. I like a lot of what he brings to the table. Reminds me of Warren a little bit, dare I say.
A little bit.
Now, yes, he's 24 years old. He's been in college forever. So, yes, he's an older prospect. But one thing about him is he didn't see a lot of carries in college. So most older, like say Najee, right? Najee was an older running back we took out of Bama, but he saw bell cow carries.
Oh, workload of carries, of course.
Kalen Black has not seen a lot of carries.
I think he's barely carried the football barely 500 times in college.
In his college career. Because he was at James Madison for 4 years from 2020 to 2023. And then obviously when Cignetti got hired in Indiana in 2024, he was one of many players that jumped over. But he has 495 career carries in all 6 years playing in college. So he has a lot of mileage. Yes, he's an older rookie, but he has a lot of mileage, which is very good.
Plenty.
And he broke out in Indiana last year, 1,000 yards, easily his best season, 10 touchdowns, easily his best season. And one thing I like about his game too is he's good in pass protection.
Oh, he's a willing blocker. He's aggressive when it comes to blocking.
So you have a bit of receiving upside from James Madison. You have that explosive factor. You got some speed. You got the fact that he didn't see a lot of mileage in college. You got the pass pro asset. Dare I say he brings more to the table than Caleb Johnson already does. And that's kind of why you take a running back here is it's essentially competition for him. You bring in an extra body for that room because it doesn't hurt. You got to give him to work with because, I mean, you already got Rico. You have Jalen. You got to give him something to work with, something to work for. You know what I mean? Something to work towards. Caleb doesn't have that. If you bring in another running back via the draft, wherever you want to take one, that brings that instantly for a guy like Caleb Johnson. Now he's going to have to step it up a little bit. Now he's really going to have to work his way to boost in a lot of areas, like pass protection, like obviously, you know, as a receiving upside, right? I think Kalen Black brings a lot more to the table than already Caleb Johnson does. But even then, that little bit of competition isn't a bad thing for someone like Caleb.
No. Like I said, with the Kevin Coleman selection, him potentially to compete with Roman Wilson for that wide receiver 4 spot. Listen, the same thing can happen for Caleb Johnson. Not necessarily a bad thing for Caleb Johnson. Sometimes that's what these young players need. They need some competition to get the best out of themselves for them to prove to the team why they selected them as early as they were selected.
Right.
This is what it's about. This is sometimes what they need, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. But Black is a very capable running back that can pretty much do it all for what you want in a running back. So,
frankly, with all these picks and all of the holes that the Steelers filled in free agency with more to happen in the draft, at the end, you kind of have luxury. You can go anywhere. It depends on how the board falls, but you can have some fun. You can add extra bodies to the tight end room, to the running back room, to the linebacker room, to the punter room if you really wanted to, right? I mean, you can go a plethora of ways because you have so many positions mostly filled with how much they've done already with the draft still to come. And what we've did in this mock, I feel like this gives us some leeway to actually go other positions just to add competition for certain guys, which is what we're going to need. We're going to need competition for a guy like Roman. We're going to need competition for a guy like Caleb Johnson. We're going to need competition for a guy like Will Howard or whoever the hell the Steelers want to kind of light a fire under, right? Or give a little bit of an edge to. That's the great thing about having so many picks is that, hey, we might not need all 10, 11, 12, no matter how many the Steelers have, whether they trade up or not. You can bring in as many bodies still to just work with who you already have on the roster.
Right. And, you know, who knows? Like, you could very well find a hidden gem with one of these selections, right? If their development goes well and they really burst onto the scene and take whatever opportunity they get and just do what they need to do with it, like, who knows, right? That's kind of one of the cool things about having as many picks as the Steelers got, right?
You never know what you're going to hit in the draft. You just never know. That's the great thing about the NFL draft is, you know, certain people fall and then you might take a gamble on somebody. But that's the exciting part about the draft is like you grab someone, you take someone maybe late, and then they might just be your next great player. You just never know what you're going to get out of somebody. And with the Steelers, I think that's a good problem to have this year because, frankly, again, they don't need all these picks. They don't because they have most of their roster pretty much filled. They just need to fix receiver more. They need to add more depth there. They need another linebacker. They need more D-line depth. They obviously need a guard, an eventual quarterback. That's eventually maybe another safety, another corner. But everywhere else, I mean, you got all these extra picks. Throw a couple flyers at it. You want to add a fullback? Go for it. You want to add an extra running back? go for it. And that's kind of what we do here at the end of this mock. So that is our first post-free agency mock draft, ladies and gentlemen. We trade up for Lemon. We fix guard. We add more to the trenches with defensive line depth. We go get another linebacker on Kyle Lewis. We double dip at corner. We double dip a receiver. And we just essentially add more to the backfield. That's what we did here in this mock draft. So let us know your guys' thoughts down in the comments below. And yes, there will be another mock draft coming out very, very shortly. And I'm not going to put any spoilers out there, but based on what we said at the beginning of this video, you guys might already know where we're going. It's just a matter of how we're going to construct it.
Yes, sir, brother. Should be very exciting on how we construct everything. But listen, guys, stay tuned as always. But I hope you guys enjoyed the mock draft. Let us know what you guys think down in the comments below. And as always, like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you later. Peace!